Hello, 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 Tampa Bay listeners. You've got everything PEO on Money Talk 1010 AM. I'm Evan Collard.
I'm Lionel Francis. Welcome.
Welcome. It is a sunny day in Tampa, Florida. A beautiful day for a radio show.
Yes, of course, of course.
Those weeks are coming by fast, I got to tell you. We are glad to be back. We've got an awesome show to bring you today. Very excited. First time for the show, in-studio guest. So as this show continues to develop in the weeks to come, but we're hitting all kinds of firsts, all kinds of milestones. And in studio today will be Mason Dorner. We'll get to him real quick. But, of course, we always want to hear from you. 888-404-1010. Lionel, before we get into it, why don't we cover last week a little bit? I want to take a moment, I think, and just kind of tell our listeners, kind of that best of moment for yourself, I guess, for last week.
There was a couple of them we had, and we discussed a few. I think the one I was more intrigued with was talking about exemptions and making sure you're compliant and you know the rules when it comes to exemptions. Again, remember, exemption doesn't mean you have comp, okay? Doesn't allude to that you have comp, okay? There's rules that are stipulated, especially if you're a blue collar. You have an owner, you can have one exemption. Every employee after that, you're going to have to go ahead and get workers' comp form. So
absolutely,
make sure you understand the rules when it comes to exemptions so you don't have any issues.
That's right. The exemption is not in lieu of coverage. I would say my best moment for last week, and, there was a lot of them, so if to try and nail that down is very difficult for me. But it was kind of a breath of fresh air, I think, just to hear Clay being in the business all these years and to still kind of slow down and take that moment with his prospects, with that business owner, and actually bring a PEO representative to every appointment. For him to say, you know what, I'm going to tell you that this is the best PEO to fit your business needs. I'm vouching for that, but it's kind of hard for me to do that if I don't even have a representative here. And in this kind of world we're living in now, it's a very much here and now business, right? Instead of reading the book, we want to watch the video blog. Even to the big gulp, it's always big, fast now. And for Clay to kind of pause, take that moment and still do it that old school way that really a lot of these foundations are built on was kind of neat for me.
Yeah, it was awesome to hear everything that Clay had to say. And it's important, again, Evan and I have been in this business for a while, and we missed the old ways, So going back to it is very important to make sure we could get in front of the clients and they can see that we're with Clay and other brokers or people sending us business our way, that we could meet with them and see if we could get them on board. So it was very, very important to go through that with Clay. So I really appreciate him coming out last week and talking to us about it.
Excellent. Absolutely. Well, we've got, like I said, we've got a guest today, a real kind of entrepreneurial and marketing beast. He's hit some real big milestones in life. He's got $1 billion in online sales generated. He just helped a tech start kind of exit with $1 billion exit. I mean, that's right, $1 billion exit as their CMO, and really has overcome a ton of adversity along his journey. And it's just, I really want to get this story out. It's important. It rocked me to the core. I met Mason Dorner a few months back at the Lions Dens. It's a mastermind out in Salt Lake City where kind of these entrepreneurs get together. And ever since that moment, he and I have kind of been connected in this odd way, and we're proud and glad to have him here. And really, I don't think I can ring the bell any harder for you, Mason, but take that moment. Tell everybody what you kind of get into today and about yourself.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, so like you said, we met out in Utah at an event that I was speaking at to kind of tell my story. And really what the way that story goes is I was building two companies simultaneously at the same time. So I was CMO of one company. I was building my own company that I owned as well. Was able to get those companies, one to $1 billion, one to multiple seven figures. That's one that I still own. But in the middle of that journey, I had some just crazy bad stuff happen to me. I mean, I was on vacation with my wife at the time and woke up one day, couldn't see, had double vision in both of my eyes, really. Couldn't walk, couldn't read. I'm freaking out. I'm on vacation. So we fly home, and we were actually out of the country. We were in Jamaica, but we fly home back to Orlando where we live, start seeing doctors. I see 6 or 7 doctors. Nobody can tell me what's going on. It's like the 7th doctor that tells me I have this rare genetic condition called keratoconus that basically means my eyes are deteriorating and they're losing their shape. And there's no cure. There's no reversal for this. There's only an experimental treatment that is a surgery. And it's a pretty intense surgery. It's experimental. It involved having my eye cut open with a scalpel and then burned with a laser, or with a UV light, actually, not a laser. It's much harsher. UV light's very hot, actually, for like an hour. And it's like the closest thing I think that is legal to a Saw movie. And so,
Wow.
So that's what I had to go through for my eyes. But before I even made it to that surgery, I woke up one day, or I was actually getting ready for bed, and I found a lump on my body where there wasn't supposed to be one. And it ended up being cancer. So now I've been hit with 2 life-altering conditions in the span of about 14 days. And I had to make the decision of, am I going to let this break me, or am I going to use this as a weapon to go even farther and accomplish more? And I chose that that's what I was going to do. So I decided I was going to keep cancer and keep this eye condition in its box. You know, we're only going to talk about it when we're at the doctor, when we're doing something treatment related. And I'm going to go out and find other places in my life where I can still win, and win even bigger, and win so big that the cancer and the eye problems look small. You know, win so big that it pales in comparison, and that I've still got huge wins in my life to focus on. And through that came 2, giant companies that we were able to build and eventually exit for $1 billion.
Amazing, amazing. And that was absolutely that line, excuse me, Lionel, that shook me to the core. I wanted to win so big, we're going to make cancer look small. And after the break, Mason's going to take that time to kind of go through that, building this company in a matter of 4 years and getting it to that $1 billion platform, and now kind of pivoting and taking that journey more on his own in an entrepreneurial spirit and helping lots of startups. And so that's why this show today, more than anything, is built for that entrepreneur. But like any show, we've got to span the globe and everything PEO and have a topic today. And we wanted to kind of go through that submissions background a little bit. But before that, we do want to hear from you. 888-404-1010. You're on with everything PEO on Money Talk 1010 a.m. And I believe Lionel's going to kind of get us started on that submission process.
Today's topic, PEO submissions. Okay, and there's a couple of steps that's involved in that. And you know what? Let's start with the first one, and it's going to be a doozy, everyone. Okay, and the first step, here it goes. Give us a call. That's the first step.
Absolutely.
Give us a call. Okay, you're doing yourself an injustice if you do not call us. Just find out what options you have with a PEO and what kind of services they could provide for you. Okay, after doing that, giving us a call, we understand that it's a busy day. You know, it's hot, it's raining, and you want to get home and you want to, get a drink, sit on the couch, kiss the kids good night, and lay out and relax. But it's important that you reach out to us, okay, so we can help you out.
More importantly, we've got to get that baseline info to get you in underwriting, right? Yep. Like any insurance submission, it starts with kind of that who, what, where, why, when. Where's the business? What are you doing? How many guys do you have? How much payroll? And I know that may sound overly complicated, but it isn't. A couple of reports can get us there, and we're moving through that process very swiftly. But once we do, there's another step.
Yeah. Again, it's important that we know what your employees are doing, a description of operation, because there's a code that's associated with that risk, okay? And there's a rate also that goes with that risk as well. And we want to make sure we code you correctly the first time. Okay?
Yeah, let's break that down. Code you correctly, right? I mean, for the listeners that maybe do not have workers' comp coverage yet, or are going down this path for the very first time and are trying to connect these dots, going down that code path. Everything is code specific. Whether you're doing office work, roofing work, tree work, everything has its own workers' comp rate or code, like Lionel mentioned. And with that risk, we'll determine how much that rate is, meaning the more riskier it is, the higher the rate. Okay, and then we multiply that by a payroll factor of how much payroll you're running in that specific code, how much in the office, how much in the painting code, how much in the drywall code, etc. And that's how they ultimately determine that baseline premium. But really, once we've got the codes figured out and that who, what, where, why, when of the business figured out, there's still another big step to come with it.
And the next step is asking you that one question, if you've ever had workers' comp in the past. Okay, it's
right.
important that we ask that question, because if you've had, we need at least 3 years of lost runs with the current or previous carrier you were with. Those lost runs, LOSS-RUN, carriers do know what that is. It's a history while you were with them to see how many claims you've had, any premium that's come in and claims that's gone out.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Very simple report, right? How much premium in, like I said, Lionel, how many claims you had during your time with the carrier. And this is not necessarily critical data. This is consistent with any line of insurance, right? If you're shopping car insurance, we pull your DMV report. What's your auto accident history look like, right? If we're shopping your health insurance, for example, how many times are you going to the doctor? What medications are you on, right? And so, of course, we need to get that simple history printout more or less in the workers' comp scope. How many guys do you have? How much premium? And what's your claims like? Do you have a frequency issue or a severity issue? Meaning, are you having a lot of claims or just one or two and a big one? And so definitely need to paint that picture. There's a lot more than just ordering that loss run, because bad claims doesn't automatically assume high rates.
Yep, you're right. Okay, it all depends. Okay, again, like Evan said, if there's a frequency issue, how many times have you had claims within those years, 2019, 2020, 21? And then there's a severity issue. Is it one big claim? It all makes it all different and how we judge how we're going to go ahead and price your rates and see what we're going to do for your workers' comp. So
Absolutely.
it goes to underwriting, and underwriter makes a decision, and then we come back and get you a quote. Get some numbers in front of you.
And you can't treat PEOs as a one-size-fits-all. Each one of these PEOs have a different risk palette. So once we've kind of figured out, is it one big claim and it's a total one-off, a shock loss is what they call that, something that we don't think would replicate a total one-off, a lightning strike, or, a sprained ankle that got infected and turned into a $300,000 claim, or, any of those kind of one-offs. That's called a shock loss. And that doesn't automatically determine, no matter how big it got from a premium versus claim, ratio, it doesn't mean all doors shut on you. In fact, that's where PEOs thrive. We don't have to necessarily go off of that history. We go off of more of the overall picture. Mm-hmm. But like Lionel said, we've identified your loss history, what your track record is, where you stand within that history, which PEO ultimately is going to give you the best. I'm sure in Lionel's case, he hopes that's Southeast. And largely that's what PEO advisors will help do. If that's the case, that's where we bring it, and so on. But then comes that beauty, pinnacle moment of we've been approved, and now we've got to issue that quote.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And it's taking that time to having a conversation and explaining what that quote is and breaking things down to you to make sure you understand what's happening. From that point, it's, making an agreement that's saying, okay, let's go ahead and move forward, signing a proposal, and then taking it to the next step, which includes getting a leasing agreement and employee applications involved and getting everybody in the system. So,
and we make it real easy. That's the goal.
Very easy.
Easy and efficient is really how PEOs are winning these days. The business owners don't want to be kind of tussled up or bogged down with an employee conversion. And in fact, I think that's where a lot of them pivot from either switching from a PEO to another, or going down that path of having in-house payroll or outsourcing to a PEO. All right, that $1 million question, we always say it. If by outsourcing our payroll and workers' comp to a PEO or a third party, if it's able to reduce my bottom line, is it worth it to you? And at no point should that value proposition be kind of underlined with and the employee conversion that comes with it. Mm-hmm. This is very simple stuff. They're already on your payroll. You give us the information. We pre-populate it. We convert it to the new template. A lot of them are even doing spreadsheet enrollments and DocuSigns these days. In fact, employee onboarding has never been easier.
Yep.
So I know we only got about a minute left. We've got Mason coming in on the next one. We do want to hear from you guys. 888-404-1010. Please don't be shy and hold back today. We've got all kinds of goodies. But what did we miss on this quote stuff, man? What would you kind of close with there?
Oh, well, with the quote stuff, I mean, just giving us the opportunity. Again, we're going to go through everything, make sure you're aware of what we're doing, how we're going to go ahead and provide you a service, bring the employees on board, discussing when you start your week, when you're in your week. Do you want direct deposits? Do you want hard copy checks? Et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on, but it's very easy, very quick. And again, the main thing is giving us a call. Okay?
Absolutely.
Give us a call.
Believe it or not, it sounds, and it is a big undertaking, and it can be lengthy if you aren't working with the efficient side of things. But believe it or not, these processes do happen in a 24 to 48-hour period all the time.
Yep.
So that's what Lion and I will do. We make your life easy in the PEO space.
Evan and I were talking yesterday and came up with something that we want to try to introduce to you today.
Yeah, new segment.
Yeah, a new segment called Save of the Week.
Catchy.
And so I guess Evan, you got a story you could give us
I
right
did.
now.
I did. I had a real good one this week, and that's kind of what everything PEO is about, is highlighting all the ways that PEOs help business owners, and it's wide-ranging, front end, back end, coverage, benefits. I mean, like Lionel was saying, putting these packages together, there's a long list, but we had a very unique one this week. We had a gentleman that was trying to obtain a contract on the Anheuser-Busch plant out there in Omaha, and to get on that project, you have a experience modifier under 1.0. And I know we've hinted about this a couple of times, so I guess we're going to have to finally give them this definition, and
Yes.
I'll do that here in a moment. But, because of his claims kind of exceeding his premium amount, right? He paid more in claims than he did in premium. He did that for a couple of years, and his experience mod got rated up above a 1.0, which ultimately made him ineligible for this job. Ouch. Right? I mean, he's got a lot in it. He's bidding it. He's hoping. He wants to get out there. The team's ready to go, and then that final thing happens. So luckily, when you adopt a PEO, you get to use their experience modifier. And so we were able to place him with a PEO under a 1.0. I'm happy to say they flew out last Sunday. They got on the job, and it just seems so fitting when we were talking yesterday. Like, man, how's a great way to get this to these listeners? And Save of the Week kind of was born yesterday on the fly, and then it just seemed fitting that this be the first story. And I know I can't really say that story without telling what an experience modifier is, and it's really could be its own show in itself. So in a very quickly way of defining that so we can get Mason on here and get rolling. But, a business in the state of Florida, they get issued what's called an experience modifier. Loosely, I call this your credit score for insurance. Mm-hmm. This is not an industry term. This is not a Lionel term. This is a kind of a show term. But to make it simple, the state's going to look at this. NCCI, that's our National Council Comp Insurance. That's kind of our governing body. They track your premium. They track your claims for about 3 years. And then based on that history, right, we just talked about loss runs, your claim history over that time period, they'll re-rate your modifier. Maybe it goes under a 1.0 rate scale. It goes down to a 0.9 or a 0.8 rate scale. And that would mean you qualify for a 20% discount to your rates, right? Kind of in that same definition. Those 3 years go by, you're having more claims than premium, and then NCCI rates your modifier above that 1.0 rating factor. It goes to a 1.1 or a 1.15. That 1.15 above the 1.0 rater, that factor, that means you're getting a 15% surcharge to your rate. So, that's just very quickly in and out on mods, but loosely that's your credit score for insurance. Just like your credit takes years to build a good mod, it just takes days to ruin it. Mm-hmm. But, nice thing is when you're with a PEO, you don't have your pricing based off of your individual mod. We go off of your current payroll and history, trends, etc. And then you also get the advantage of using that PEO's mod when bidding these larger
and that's
commercial
important. That's
projects.
Really important.
Huge.
I hope you guys picked that up. What he's saying is if you do have a high mod coming on with a PEO with a low mod, you could adopt their mod to go ahead and get that job. Keep that in mind.
Rarely discussed as a feature benefit to this whole thing. Rarely discussed.
Yeah. Well, again, you're here with Everything PEO. Please give us a call, 888-404-1010. Here with us with Evan and Lionel.
Absolutely. Well, we've got Mason in the studio. I know we kind of teed him up last segment, but I guess for anyone that is coming into the show late, he truly is kind of that entrepreneurial and marketing expert, a real beast, really. Let's just call it what it is. He's generated over $1 billion in online sales. Just helped take a tech startup to $1 billion exit. A very key part of that. And he's got a great journey story to go along with it. We're proud, lucky, glad to have him in here. And I think like anything, bringing in a guest to the studio, it just kind of starts with, tell us about your professional journey, Mason. How did you kind of come to be where you are in this space?
All right. Yeah, thanks again so much for having me. So I went to college for sports management, actually, which is like a degree to be a gym teacher. I didn't do that, but I ran sports facilities. I ran a wakeboard park and I ran a snowboard park, and realized that working in sports seems really cool, and it actually really sucks. It's long hours, it's low pay. Marketing was one of my jobs when I was running these sports facilities. And so when I realized I didn't really like working in sports that much, I was like, I like this marketing thing. I'm pretty good at this. I learned how to build websites and buy ads. I think I'm going to go do that. And so I changed careers at the ripe old age of 23 and started working with Universal Orlando. Eventually jumped over to work for Disney, was running all of their paid digital media for Walt Disney World, about a $20 million annual budget, about $600 million in revenue, and then got bored.
Impressive.
and decided I wanted to go and join the startup world because that just I was getting bored doing the Disney thing, doing the corporate thing, and so joined this tiny little startup. Everybody thought I was crazy, and then we took it to $1 billion.
Oh,
What's
awesome.
that like? I mean, obviously, that entrepreneurial grind is always that next level up. It's, you get paid last or not at all, and there is no 9 to 5. Very tough on that work-life balance. But what's that journey really, entail? Is that a ton of traveling, long hours? I'm sure all of the above, but break that down for us.
Yeah, it's a ton of hours. So the startup that I joined post Disney was somebody else's company where I came in and I got a piece of the company and eventually worked my way into a CMO type role. So that was a ton of hours, ton of pressure, building a team. You're building something from the ground up that nobody's ever really done before. We were in the payment technology space and we had a model that nobody in the space had in terms of just how we priced and how we acquired customers. So what we were doing was disruptive. There was no roadmap. And then in addition to that, again, I tend to get bored and get antsy really easily. And so while I was building that company, I was like, hey, I think I can help other business owners build their businesses up too. I'm going to start doing this little side hustle thing, which is my company now, which is called Ascend It, and start helping them scale and grow their businesses, scale their marketing, bring in more revenue, et cetera. And so I was doing both of those things simultaneously. So my 9 to 5, which was really more of like an 8 to 7, I would go work and then I'd come home. And then I would come home and work on my freelance clients until call it midnight. So yeah, it was a ton of hours and a ton of weekends for about 4 years.
A ton of sacrifices. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
It certainly seems like it paid off.
Right.
And so you've got Ascendant now. Is that right?
Yep.
Well, tell us a little bit about Ascendant.
Yeah, so Ascend It, we started off as a marketing agency. We've now worked our way into what I would call an e-commerce and technology accelerator. So we work mostly with e-commerce brands and with software companies. And when these companies get to a point where they have a little bit of revenue and they're ready to blow up and go big, that's what we're really good at. And so we come in and partner with them and basically take over their marketing and sales. And usually we can grow these things at least 10x. We've had growth as big as 100x in 12 months with the companies that we partnered with. So that's really what we specialize in, is when somebody's got something and they've sort of got proof of concept, they've got their product, and they're ready to go huge, that's where we come in and we help them go big in 12 to 24 months.
What do you see is the biggest mistake some of these new startups have?
I think a big one that I see a lot is doing things that are the right things, but at the wrong stage. So spending money on the wrong things at the wrong stage. One that I've seen before is people start thinking about marketing, and that's why they start talking to us, and they think, well, I need PR. But PR doesn't pay you back for like 6 months. It's really it's inconsistent. You don't know when a news article is going to pick you up or when something's going to happen. And when you're early stage, you need stuff that's going to pay you right then. So it's almost jumping a few steps ahead. Or even within the marketing mix, TikTok is another one, kind of chasing these shiny objects, right? So TikTok is great. TikTok ads are great. Facebook and Google are still better. And a lot of entrepreneurs are jumping over Facebook and Google and going right to marketing on TikTok. When Facebook and Google, even though they're kind of old hat, they're going to get you better ROI.
Wow.
Well, we want to hear from you guys. We've got Mason in the studio talking everything entrepreneur, all of the above. 888-404-1010. Please don't hold back. Don't be shy. Good stuff, Mason. Tell me, how is Ascendant really kind of, separating themselves from the other people in this space? How are you separating from the competitors?
Yeah, so I think the way that we've really differentiated ourselves is we started off as a run-of-the-mill marketing agency, and what I discovered through helping with Stacks in Orlando, that was the big tech startup that I worked for, and with working with other startup founders, is that it's a completely different skill set to grow a company that's already big versus growing a company that is tiny. You just have to be way scrappier, way more tenacious. You got to be willing to fill in a lot more gaps. And so that's what we kind of worked ourselves into. Is we started off as a marketing agency, and some of our clients were having problems or failing because of other pieces in their business that didn't have anything to do with marketing. And we saw that and said, if we don't fix this, the whole business fails. We might be doing our job as the marketers, but if this other thing breaks the business goes under, and then we're all out of a job. And so that's where we learned how to fix all these different areas of business, from customer service to sourcing to fulfillment. You name it, we've probably helped a business owner fix it. And so we take a holistic approach and really come in as a growth partner or a growth agency, not a marketing agency, but a full-blown revenue growth agency. Oh. And so we take this holistic approach that marketing agencies don't do. They stay in their one lane. We say that we don't have a lane. Our lane is your business.
Wow.
How many businesses a year are you helping?
So we keep our book pretty small intentionally because startups are a ton of work. They take way more attention than a normal business. So we typically don't work with more than, call it 20 businesses in a year, because we just know that that's the amount of attention that they take.
Wow.
Okay. Well, looks like we have some callers here. Why don't we take one?
Absolutely. The board's lit up. At least there's a couple on there. We're going to throw one in. You're on with Everything PEO, Money Talk 1010. Mason Dorner in the studio. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing? Great show today, guys. Mason, you're the man.
Thank
I
you.
had a question. What advice you would have for a business owner who's planning on selling down the road?
Go to one, right? I think that's on the mind with a lot of folks. I don't know about you, Mason, but in the PEO space, there's been capital and VCs everywhere. There's been acquisitions more this year than I've probably seen in the last 5 years combined. And I know you guys are doing a lot of that yourself over with Ascendant. But thank you for calling, sir. Great question. Go ahead, Mace.
Yeah, so when you think about selling a business, and this is something that we've worked with a lot of founders on and that we're even positioning our own business for, is that you have to figure out how to replace yourself. If there is anything that you as the founder or you as the owner, and you're the only person that does that function, it makes your business less valuable and makes it less possible for you to sell your business. And that's hard for business owners to do, to step away, train somebody else to do certain functions. But if you do not 100% replace yourself and systemize in order to do it, nobody can take your business over from you then. You can't sell it. It's not really worth anything. It becomes called a non-marketable asset. So that would be my number one piece of advice, is create systems to replace yourself so that you can then step out and somebody else can buy and take over.
I think that's really important. I think due to COVID, we had a lot of people who decide to go out on their own and try to start their own business. And some of them are doing it the right way and others having a hard time. So
No,
really
I mean,
important.
that's so true.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know if the phone dropped or we lost your caller, but if so, hopefully you heard Mason there. But I think there's a big difference there, Mason. You kind of hit on that. Being busy and being productive, that doesn't always correlate to be the same thing. And investing in yourself, I've been on this journey. That's kind of what brought us together, is me going down that path. Even though I've been in the business 20 years, owned my own agency since 2010, for that first time, I've gone down that business coaching path, that mastermind path, collaboratively getting around other successful entrepreneurs. And even though I'm in the PEO space and this gentleman may own a dentist office with 6 locations, there's just so much we can learn from off of each other. Even though we're not in that same space, the struggle is real for these business owners. And it's pretty neat that you get with them early and put them in the right direction and guide them through that process. And I know that's kind of worked well with us over the years. A lot of these folks you end up putting in the PEO space to take that back office off of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
I know
right.
The big startup, they own with the PEO as well. Is that correct, Mace?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, having a PEO backing you up is huge because it frees you as the business owner up from having to do all this super time-consuming admin stuff that you don't need to be learning about, and it allows you to focus on actually running your business and growing your business. And yeah, Evan, to your point, Stacks Payments over in Orlando, they were with a PEO when I joined them. Again, I think I was hire number 30 or 40, really early, really small stage. When I left, they were around 350 or 400 people and still with the PEO, and it saved us a ton of time and money being with a PEO.
I'm glad you said that, Mason. We too often you hear in this PEO space that small to medium size business, and although that may be that niche, that's that core business, that 0 to 50, where we really, because often they don't have the HR department, they don't have that second layer of back office. So that's where we're most effective. Mm-hmm. But that is not to say limited to. Lionel and I just worked on a case last year, 9 states, 23 million, about 1,000 employees. They saw the value in the PEO from that limited liability shift, taking the workers' comp off of their tax ID number, shifting it over. This way, if it's not managed correctly or the taxes, the filings, none of it's done correctly, they're not liable. And so when they've got a lot going, especially in a startup, look how fast you scaled that. Mm-hmm. 0 to 400 employees within 4 years. I mean, this thing's growing and it's coming at every direction. At least you can rest easy knowing you've got that off of your plate. Yeah. Okay. Please, guys, we got a call. That was awesome. Hopefully we get some more today. 888-404-1010. Please don't hold back. What else you want to throw at them here, Lionel?
Well, Mason, you're married.
I am.
And your family. I mean, how does this play into the journey of being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so
Good question.
Yeah, so one of the things I like to say is the only thing harder than being an entrepreneur is being married to one. So I got to definitely, throw my wife some major credit for backing me up all these years and kind of being my rock and supporting me, because I couldn't have done what I did or be where I'm at if it weren't for her. Because there's so many things with running our house and running our family that she took off my plate so that I could focus. So yeah, she absolutely deserves a ton of credit for where we're at. And I think one of the best investments that we made in the business, actually, and this is going to sound crazy, was getting a marriage coach, getting a marriage counselor. People think that that's like a dirty word and that you need to be, really having problems to need that. It's not true at all. If you're an entrepreneur, you're doing something that 99% of the population doesn't do. You need support that 99% of the population doesn't have. Our coach has helped us be able to grow and be able to take on more than the average couple does in terms of building these businesses, because she's just enabled our relationship to withstand more and us to communicate better.
Wow.
You've got to remove those stigmas. Even like you say just a moment ago, talking about that business coaching, that investing in yourself. It's kind of like marketing, right? I think I saw something, Mason, you talked about this on another podcast recently, where, marketing is so tired. You don't get that dollar for dollar in marketing. How do you gauge a success? Even in the social media and the content space, is it likes? Is it follows? Where does that moment of success come? And getting that stigma away from certainly every good man in the entrepreneurial space has a good woman next to them.
Yep. And
right?
My wife is listening to this right now, and so she comes to me tonight saying, hey, we need a coach. I know where to go.
Another new segment on this show coming at you every week. That's kind of what Everything PEO's job is, to get you what's kind of new, relevant in this industry and in the business of employment. And I think it's just fitting to have a segment coming at you every week called Everything Relevant. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of neat having Clay in here last week, and been following his page. And he's really, for anyone in the PEO space looking to get more seasoned and well-rounded in all facets, follow Clay Kelly's page. Do yourself that favor. He is constantly posting articles and tidbits, whether it's HIPAA laws, FRSLA laws, ball of knowledge over there. And he posted one this week. It really kind of rang home with me, and it was an article that was labeled, Want to Keep Your Employees. And under that, it was, if so, listen to them.
Yep.
And I actually think there's nothing more relevant right now. I think it's never been tougher to get employees. I think everyone can agree that that process has never been harder. And it just seemed fitting to have this new segment, Everything Relevant, and to kind of tee it up with that. And, that's kind of my 2 cents on it. What do you think, Lionel?
Well, again, I love that part where it says listen to your employees, because it could be that simple.
Sure.
As easy as listening to them and them saying that, hey, PTO might be something important to them. Paid time off. You never know if you don't ask the question and listen to what they're saying to you. But coming on with a PEO, there's other options that you could provide for your employees or employees you're trying to keep on board or hire. Health. Health is something important that all the employees want. And yes, is it affordable sometimes? Yes, it is. Can it be expensive sometimes? Yes, it can. You also have your 401ks, another option you could offer to the employees.
But they got other options these days.
They have other options.
They really do. They have minimum essential coverage plans for when you don't want that major medical. And there's all disabilities. There's all kinds of other plans.
You have life insurance. Do you know with life insurance you could pick up $25,000 for less than $4 a month?
Whoa.
Okay.
Sounds cheap to me.
You can also get accident coverage, which is going to be very important for those employees who are at home, get injured at home, and then try to come into the job and say, well, I got injured on the job. It won't work. You got accident coverage. I think it's important that you probably present that to the employees to see if you could get them on board. That's less than $4 a month. Okay. You have long-term disability, short-term disability. You also have vision and dental. But here's the kicker. You could offer to pay a portion of that for the employees. Okay, this is all the employees. The employees could pay for this on their own, but you could offer that after 90 days, 180 days, and contribute a certain portion of it and pay for it.
Keep them happy, right?
Keep them happy.
Unlike major medical, where you have to pay 50% of the premium as the employer, on these ancillary products, there are employee pickups, individual pickups, direct bills. But sure, I think what Lionel's saying is if you're trying to put a custom benefit package together, you're trying to keep that staff happy in an era when we really need to, getting one of those in place and in front of them in lieu of providing major medical can go a long, long way.
And your hook, you could write this off.
There you go. I think every business owner needs another write-off.
Yep, always. We don't have enough these days right now.
Well, please get into it with us. 888-404-1010. That's 888-404-1010. I see someone coming in. We'll get to you here in just a moment. We're going to bring Mason back onto the show. I wanted to jump into this, Mason, real quick. You know, it seems like, obviously, you've had some adversity. You went through that at length. And first of all, just congratulations.
Thank you.
To come out of that and to be where you are. I mean, you've had every excuse, every reason, and, you know, you've dug deep, almost in a way found a way to weaponize it. And I just want to say, first of all, good for you. You know, we connected back in Salt Lake, and I was kind of going through something, you know, right around that time that you had just gone through, and that really is what brought this bond where it is today. But, you know, for anyone that's struggling out there or connecting with this in a big way, share that secret, share that mojo with them. How have you been able to kind of dig deep and weaponize this and really come out on the other side whole?
Yeah, so like I talked about earlier, a big piece of it was there was this moment where I had to decide, am I going to let, you know, cancer and, you know, the condition with my eyes that was going to make me go blind, was I going to let those things just bleed in and derail all the good stuff I had going on? Because those things were terrible, but I had so much good opportunity in front of me as well. And I made the decision when I was sitting in the pre-op room before my cancer surgery, because I was freaking out, and I was just like, I can't do this. I can't live like this for the next 6 months or however long. It ended up being 2 years before I was really fully healthy. But I was just said, I'm not going to do this. I'm putting this in a box, and I'm going to focus on the opportunities in front of me. I'm not going to let this squander them. And I literally pulled my phone out, started instant messaging everybody on my team. And the last thing that I sent before I went under with my anesthesia, this is going to sound like kind of a hardo thing, but the next manager on my team, I said, hey, man, how many leads are we at today? How many deals have we closed? He told me, got knocked out, went to surgery. When I woke back up, I said, hey, man, how many leads have we gotten? How many deals did we close? Where did we end the day? And I just stayed focused like that through the whole battle and used it as fuel. Like, I can't let this thing win. I can't let this thing beat me. So every single time I hit a road bump, I got to go even harder to make that speed bump just seem small and insignificant.
Wow, that's amazing.
Good for you. You know, it takes that skill, maybe that entrepreneurial spirit to get lost in work. And not everybody does that. I mean, some stare at that clock and 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock, or whatever that shift change is, can't come soon enough. And others really find that way to dig deep and thrive into it. And it really seems as if, you know, you have. So I commend you for it, Mason. I really do.
Thank you.
It looks like we have another caller on. We have Dak Davis.
Dax from Palm Harbor, you're on the show.
Guys, awesome job tonight. Great show. To expound a little bit further or elaborate, I guess, in regards to Lionel's question, I'd like to know a little bit more, hear a little bit more about how you were able to juggle all these walls, if you would, or circumstances or challenges, and still get to where you are today.
In what capacity, Dax? How do you mean that? In a funding capacity or finding new business owners? Or
the juggling the family dynamic with the entrepreneurial spirit and the go, but then also the health component. Like, that's a lot to manage and still be able to do what Mason has done.
Amen.
Yeah, so I'll jump in and answer the family component. You know, it wasn't always easy. My wife and I were not always good at juggling that. It took a lot of work and a lot of working with that coach to kind of figure out how to juggle and how to prioritize. Because I think as entrepreneurs, if you want to be successful in building a business, you kind of have to be out of balance. You have to be over-indexing or, you know, over-committing to your business if you want a business to be successful. So just by the nature of it, your life is going to be out of balance. Like, work-life balance is not a thing for an entrepreneur. But there are still limits to it. There is still a balance within that out of balance, and making sure that you are still spending time with your wife, with your kids, with your family, whatever that perfect mix is for you is really important. It took me a lot of years to find that, but even with that overcommitment to your business, there is still a line that you need to make sure that you stay on top of. And I think something else too that's been huge is since taking over and having my own business now, my wife has started to work with me on the business. I mean, she's doing all kinds of stuff like social media, coordinating travel. She helps me write a lot of my speeches. And 5 years ago, we couldn't work together at all. We're both type A, oldest kids in our families. Like, we butted heads like crazy. And now we're actually working together on something for the first time. And I always felt like my career and my relationship were kind of pulling at each other. And whatever I did for one was to the detriment of the other. For the first time, they're meshed and both pushing in the same direction and each making each other better.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I think the biggest thing there is especially for entrepreneurs, right, where we know we're juggling that time, we know it's going to be limited, being present, right? Because nothing's more than, okay, whether we've compromised on a date night. First of all, Dex, thank you for the call. Great question. Anyone else? 888-404-1010. Don't be shy. We still got a few minutes here with Mason. But yes, jumping back to that, I think being present for the entrepreneur is so important because we break this down to a date night or kids' time, almost to a point of scheduling it. And there's nothing worse than in that time. So everyone has made sacrifices, both parties, right? And then in that time, you're still on that phone. That's the big no-no that I think gets most men into trouble, or entrepreneurs in any capacity, because, and I've learned that a little bit over the last year or two of my life. It's really about being present. You know, although time demand is pulled a lot of ways, make sure when you're there, you're there.
Well, I tell you what, sitting between both of you right now, being entrepreneurs, I can see the difficulty of making sure you keep it together. You know, I haven't gone that rim, but I can see how you just got to keep certain things in place and keep everything in focus and sight on what you're trying to achieve. And it seems like both of you have made sure you kept the right people surrounding you, in a sense, to help you in this journey.
Yeah, it takes a team.
Yeah.
It takes a team.
Yeah. Well, again, callers, you're with Everything PEO. Please do not hesitate. Give us a call at 888-404-1010. We're still here with Mason. We're going to ask him a few more questions. If you have any questions for us, please give us a shout.
I got one. So, okay. Mason, talk to me, man. The economy's been tough. Although it seems like VC money is everywhere right now, how has that, worked for you trying to do, these fundraisers for these startups and constantly, 28 businesses a year you launch. That is only 52 weeks in a year. It depends. It's all relative, but 20 launches in 52 weeks, constantly finding that next wave of money. What's that process been like through, the COVID era and kind of post-pandemic era, I guess?
So in terms of funding, everything now is taking longer. It's taken longer to raise money. Valuations are not as high. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because really company valuations were very out of whack, in my opinion, pre-COVID and pre the last year. And the good thing is if you're a business owner or a founder who was responsible and responsibly grew your company at a sustainable rate, focused on profitability instead of growth at all costs, it's a great time for you if you built a solid business. The people that grew like crazy and burnt investor money to grow as fast as possible and spent money on flashy things, they're in trouble right now because they need to raise more money because their business loses money. They haven't focused on profitability. They've focused on growth at all costs. Those people are getting hit right now. They're running out of funding. They're taking down rounds. The people that were smart and focused on just good core business principles, now is a time when they can win.
Yeah. It's amazing when they're making better choices, how that continues to roll downhill. Lionel have seen this so many times, being in the PEO space for 20 years. We head out to that job site. We do an enrollment on site, and we see, that his or her contractor, he's got that Ford F-150. It's all jacked up. He's got more in. He could be driving a Rolls Royce with how much he has in this truck, and then it just takes one delayed draw payment from that GC or something gets out of state check, gets an extra day hold, whatever that moment is, and he can't make payroll. Or, they grow exponentially too fast. It scales too fast, and they're only one draw check away or one factoring, hiccup away from really jamming up. And they go from, just a few employees to $1 million payroll to a multi-million-dollar payroll back down to that few employees. Mismanagement is key. And PEOs are just like any other business, right? They help you scale, all right? PEOs have to grow logically as well. They can almost outgrow their means too, so to have that arm around their shoulder as you're getting them going, is good. And it's clearly Ascendant's doing an amazing job. So good for you, Mason.
Thank you.
Here's a question for you guys. So you guys were coming up on the last few minutes of the show. So I'm a new business owner. All right, I'm just standing out there, and I meet you guys in the elevator. You guys already do what you do. I need the elevator pitch of why I should be going to a PEO.
Whoa, who's taking that one, Lionel? Slick
Oh,
jumping in the
that's
show
a
for the
good one.
first time. Slick joined the party.
Well, why?
Thank you, Slick. Thank
Well,
you.
Good
Good
one.
one.
There's a lot of things you could say, but I would say to them, wouldn't you want someone who's going to protect you and watch your back while you're starting your new business? Okay. Again, you're not starting with an HR department and someone back there who's going to be able to handle everything you need when it comes to payroll taxes and the W-2s and which bank you're going to use to cut your checks, et cetera, et cetera.
So essentially, you guys are bringing the experience. I don't have to have somebody from the outside come in and learn from the ground up. You guys already have that. It's just delegating it over to you.
Yeah,
Correct.
absolutely. It's like what happens ultimately, you adopt a PEO service for your business. We come in, we process your payroll. Each employee that gets a paycheck through that service will have workers' comp. From their benefits, retirement plans, all of that comes with the service. Risk management, making sure your taxes are filed on time. Your quarterly reports are done on time. Your W-2s are out. You're in compliance with the state. I mean, the business of employment is so wide-ranging. And usually when folks jump into this, they're good at a trade. They've got a skill set. You know, they want to be. They finally, the entrepreneurial spirit has blossomed, and they want to go start a painting business. Have no idea what the back end of that and all the compliance and the scope that comes with it. But you can hire just one service that makes it a pay-as-you-go platform, eases you through that transition, and make sure you land on your feet. I don't know if that was 30 seconds.
I mean, we went to the top floor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, straight to the top. Good one. Thanks for jumping in on that. Well, Mason, we got 2 minutes. We got a hard out actually in about a minute and a half. If you were going, I'm going to do the same thing to you that Slick just did to us. Okay, if you had one last little tidbit to drop for anybody doing a startup or in any condition, give me that 60 seconds, my man. Go for it.
So for anyone doing a startup, I would say the most important thing is to get good advisors around you and to be very selective with those advisors. Make sure that they're people that have done it before, that they're not just good businessmen from other niches or other types of companies. Because I've worked with founders who have advisors from Fortune 500 companies in a different niche. And it doesn't make any sense. They've steered these. I've watched them steer people wrong. And the thought is, oh, well, you were XYZ C-suite, employee at whatever Fortune 500 company. You're a great businessman, and you can tell me how to run my small company. Not even close. So you need to be get good advisors, but also be really selective in who they are. Make sure that they've done a business at your stage. Even if they're in the same niche, if they've never done startup or small or medium, they've only done huge, they're probably not going to give you great advice for the stage that your business is at.
Well, we ran very long. I'm so sorry. Next week, we've got Phil Martina, owner of the Kimberly Group, the 15,000 worksite employees, one of the best and fastest growing PEOs in the state. Going to be in studio throwing everything PEO at you. We're very excited to have him. Mason, today was awesome. A lot of good input.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Our goal of this show is always to leave this show a little smarter and brighter as an entrepreneur, and I think we did that. Well, it always closes like this. We've got everything PEO. We're not on a break, just a 167-hour delay. We'll see you next week, guys.
See you next week.